Hello and welcome to the third session of Java video series for flow control. In this session we will understand about the while loops that are available inside Java. So let's begin with the topic. First of all, let's discuss the syntax related to the while loop. Then we will discuss why we should use while loop. Followed by this we will use certain cases related to while loop. So the syntax of while loop is this: while, and then there's a b, action if b is true. So what's happening is that we have the keyword while, and then there is the argument related to while, which is b. Now if this b is true, then this action inside the curly braces will be performed. So the statements that are available inside the curly braces are the statements of while loop, and this is called the body, the statements between two curly braces, that is this and this, is known as the body of the while loop. So this is the basic sentence of the while loop. Now while loop, why we should use while loop, and where we should use while loop. So in order to understand this point better, consider the following example where I have this one. Yeah, this one is fine. See, I have while loop over here, and this rs.next is an argument to while loop. Also, please do have in mind that this is going to return us the boolean value. Okay, and this over here and this method over here is related to a database, right? And this method over here, which is has more elements, and has next, are somewhat related to database in Java. So because we do not know how long is the data or how many elements are there in data, or whether the next element is present inside data, we should use while loop in that case. So while loop will be executed until and unless all the data gets exhausted or the required match is found. So we should use while loop when we do not know how much looping or how much iterations are to be performed. So this is the basic identification where we should use while loop, and we should not go for other loops. When we have when we are definite about the loopings, number of loopings, then we should go for the for loop. We will discuss about for loop and the enhanced for loop also in the next video sessions. In this session we will be discussing about the while statement, and afterwards we will be discussing about the do while statements. We will also be having points related to while and do while comparison. There are only 1 and 2 points related to while and do while comparisons. The rest of the things are similar for both while and do while. So we will be running programs for while loop, and we will leave the exercise for do while loop. Although I'm going to list all these programs on my blog, and I'm also going to give the address of the blog in the description as well as in the messaging box. So let's begin with these slides once again. So the slide says this is the syntax of the while loop. So this was the basic introduction of the while loop, where we should use while loop. When we do not know the exact numbers of loop or the iterations we must perform in order to find some result, then we should go for while loop. So this is the basic syntax. B is the boolean type. It should be a boolean type. If we are not passing down the boolean type of argument, then we are going to get the compatibility error from the compiler. Now the next point states that if we do not know the number of iterations in advance, then best loop is the while loop. We have discussed that. Next point states that the argument to the while loop should be boolean type. If we are using any other type, then we will get compile time. Let me show you this by running this program over here, where I have a program which takes an integer value in while argument, and I have this program already copied down in the test pad. So this is the integer value. I'll save this program and run it, Let me quickly clear this screen first. And sorry, and now see, the incompatibility issue arises where we are required to have the boolean and we are finding int as the passed argument over here, right? So this is an error, so it must be a boolean. Also, we have discussed about the passing of the arguments in if-else statements and the switch case default statements. So from the in the other loops we will not be discussing those cases. Those things will be applicable to the remaining loops as well. So let's move on to the next point in the slide, which states that curly braces are optional. We know that in if-else statement curly braces are optional. In selective statements, in switch statements, switch case default, the curly braces related to switch are mandatory, whereas curly braces related to the default and the cases are optional. So similarly, in case of while loop, the curly braces are optional, and this rule will also go to the do while loop, which we will be discussing next after we are done with the while loops. So curly braces are optional, and without curly braces we can take only one statement. I hope you might have guessed what type of statement it should be. It should be only a declarative statement. If we are it should not be a declarative statement, right? If we are not using curly braces, it should not be a declarative statement, or we will get compile time error, as we have already seen this in case of if-else statements and switch case default statements as well. Now let's run programs related to these points. Curly braces are optional and other things. We will be running more programs. So see, over here curly braces are optional, while true and there are no curly braces, but there is one statement. So the statement just after the arguments will be considered the statement inside the while loop. I am going to copy and paste the program. So copying down it and pasting it. Now quickly running this. So in this program, what's going to happen is the condition is going to be true forever. See, true is a reserved literal. It's a value of boolean type. It's a value. Like we have the values of integer type as 10, 20, minus 10, minus 20. Similarly, we have the values for boolean data type as true and false. These are not the words, these are not the identifiers, these are not the variables, these are the values related to boolean data types that are available inside Java. So these are fixed values, they are not going to be changed anywhere inside the program. So that's why this condition is going to be true forever, and this hello will be printed forever and ever onto the screen. So because there is no syntax error, the compiler is going to pass the code, but the runtime environment will be showing us the infinite loop. So let me quickly run it to prove my point and see we are getting. Now to terminate this infinity loop, what we have to do, we have to press Control over the keyboard and press C. So the infinite loop will be terminated and we will be back onto the command prompt from where we left. Let me clear the screen now. So the screen is clear. Now let's move on to the next point in which the curly braces are not there, and the semicolon is treated as the empty statement. Again, because there is nothing to be done, what we will get that we are not going to go onto the command prompt. Let me save this first and I'll show you. But once I compile it, I'll get back to C user Haris desktop, right? So it does its job and it comes back to the prompt. Now see this prompt, this is done. But when I'll run a program where nothing is to be done, but the condition is true forever and ever, then it's not going to come back to the prompt. So C Java and test, and it's gonna be blinking like this. Okay, but it's not gonna come because this is an infinite loop doing nothing. So what we have to do, we again have to press Control and then C over the keyboard, and it will come out of that loop. Actually, it will terminate it abnormally. Let me clear the screen one more time. Now these are the results related to the optional things in while loop, where we have curly braces but they are optional, and we are catching into a loop which is not going to end if we do not manipulate the condition inside the while arguments. So this being said, let me go to the next point, which states that if we are not using the curly braces, then there should not be any declarative statement as well. We have discussed this point. So this is a declarative statement and we do not have curly braces. So this is going to flag error, right? This is not going to compile saying that this is wrong. Actually, there are plenty of errors it will get, but this is going to give the error in the end. So this is an error. To remove the error, what we have to do, we have to simply apply the brackets or curly braces to the declarative statement like this. So now the declarative statement is between the curly braces, and because the declarative statement is between the curly braces, the compile time will be a successful compilation will be the result. Now moving on to the next point, we have certain code related problems in regards to regarding while loop. So let me first cover these points and then we will discuss and explain these points by running a practical example. So the point states that every final variable will be replaced with the corresponding value by compiler. So this is a really important point. Say if we are using a final keyword in front of a variable, for example int x equals 10, this is there, x is a variable, but if I use final in front of the declaration of that is int, so it will become final int x equals 10. Now what happens is the compiler is going to replace the corresponding variable with the value, and it will be treated as a constant, okay, if we use the final keyword in front of the variable. The next is, if any operation involves only constants, only we are dealing with the constants, then compiler is not responsible is responsible to perform that operation. It's going to perform that operation, right? It's going to perform that operation and it will also pass that operation. Now if any operation involves at least one variable, compiler won't perform that operation. Because the variable is involved, then it will be the duty of the runtime JVM to perform that operation. Because the variable is involved, JVM will expect that at any moment that variable's value will change, or it will be affected by some other process or task that is running in the background or concurrently or ahead of that program. Any of the three cases may happen. So that's why when it involves variable, compiler won't perform that operation, and it will be the duty of the JVM at runtime to perform that operation. So these are some of the points related to the while loop. Now let me quickly discuss the cases. Now over here we have discussed the declarative statement should be inside the curly braces, right? If you are not using the curly braces of the while loops, then there should not be the declarative statement as the first statement for while loop. Now next is, we have a condition true over here. These are very much important point. Please pay more attention to these points. Say this condition is going to be true forever, so this will be executed forever and ever, and this line will never be reached. So compiler will flag the error stating that this line is not reachable. So to prove this, let's run this program, and this is where I have to paste it down, save it quickly, and see, this is the error, unreachable statement, right? Hi. So this is unreachable because the value over there is true, so it's not going to come out of that loop. So this is one thing. Now next, if this is false, what's going to happen, that this statement will never be executed. So again this statement will not be reachable, so the same error will be flagged but the line will be different. So let me quickly save the program and run it one more time, and we'll see that this time the statement which is unreachable is bracket. Of course, because the bracket is the next statement related to the false one. Over here, if I remove the brackets, it will give me this system hello as the unreachable statement, right? Because after, if there are no curly braces, the statement after the arguments will be considered inside the while loop. So now this will be considered inside the while loop, and the in the command prompt, on the command prompt, we will be having that statement as it was here. So it will be like system out print line hello, and rest of the things will be same. So let me run this now, and we'll see this, right? This over here. That proves the point. Now next point states that we have a variable a equals 10 and b equals 20. Now because the calculation over here involves the variables, then compiler is not responsible. It's the responsibility of the JVM at runtime to look for the values. And we expect that there might be a change in the values because they are considered as variable and not as constants. So what's going to happen is the compiler is going to pass the code just by checking the basic syntax, which is true in this case, and when we will run this now, JVM will be stuck inside the code printing hello and hello forever, because it will expect that the value of a and b might change, and this statement becomes false and it will come out of the while loop. But that's not going to happen because we know that we haven't done any of the code related to an a and b for which the values will be changed. So let's quickly come out of that looping. Now what if I just put a final in front of a? What's going to happen is a will be treated as the constant and the value will be substituted by the compiler. So over here we will have 10 and not a, right? And when 10 is less than 20, what's going to happen is it will find that these are constants and the result will become a constant. So 10 less than 20 is a true statement. That's why hello will be printed forever and ever, but hi will become unreachable. So we will have the error stating that the system out print line is not reachable or is unreachable. So let me run this now. You see that the line is unreachable now. Now what happens is, say if I put the value as a variable, see I have removed the final from here in here. So what's going to happen is this will be treated as a variable. So now because the expectation is that a might change its value, although we know that in our program we haven't done so, but the compiler is going to expect that the value may change. And so what's going to happen? It's going to compile fine, and it will be the responsibility of the JVM, and because we know that the value of a is not going to change, it will be in the infinite loop forever. So what we have to do, press Ctrl C to get out of the loop. So that's why there are errors related to compiler and JVM, where at one point compiler priorly shows you the information that this is not reachable, right? And in the second case we are getting into a loop where hello is printed constantly onto the screen. So it is due to the fact that when we treat them as constants, compiler catches that and states the error, whereas when we use the variables, then compiler is not responsible, and this becomes the job of the JVM, and that's why we are only able to see infinite printing of these statements onto the screen. So that's the basic difference, and it's a very important difference related to this topic. Have this in mind because it's asked many times. So this is one thing. So these are some of the things related to the while loop. I hope I have done everything. Now over here we have a is 10, but this is variable, so this is not the responsibility of the compiler, and this will be the responsibility of the JVM. Over here it's final, so compiler will replace that with the constant value, and it will compare not a but 10 less than 20, and it will find that this statement is true, and it's gonna flag the error that this over here is not reachable, right? So So this is one thing related to while statement. Now if I move on with the next point, the next topic is the do while topic. So most of the points and the cases which we have discussed in case of while loop are similar to the do while loop. But what's the basic difference and why there is a need of do while loop? See, when we have discussed about the while loop, what was stated is that if you do not know the number of loops that are to be executed beforehand, then you must go for the while loop. But say if you want to execute loop at least once, at least once we want to do the looping, then you should go for the do while loop, right? So if you want to execute loop body at least once, then you should go for do while loop. Now the syntax is that do and then curly braces and then statements, and then post curly braces we have while containing b. This b will have the boolean values, so if we pass it int value, we will get the compatibility issue, right? Now there semicolon is mandatory as well. Semicolon is mandatory. You write anything or not over here, maybe these curly braces are optional, but the semicolon is really a mandatory thing over here, right? So this is the syntax, basic syntax of the do while loop. The next few things that we have already discussed many times is curly braces are optional or very obvious. Without curly braces, we can take only one statement, and what it should be like, it should not be a declarative statement. It can be any other statement. It can be an empty statement. It can be a printing statement, but it should not be a declarative statement. So this being said, let's quickly move to the. Let me close this one. Save, of course, save it, and we will do the exercises over here only, right? Over here only, and you can run the programs on your own. If I find any code that is worth running, then I'll run that. Now over here we have do, and then there is no curly braces, and the condition is true. So this is because this is constant. This is going to be true forever. So hello will be printed onto the screen forever and ever. So what's gonna happen is, let me quickly run it, save it. Now this time it's the do while loop. There we have a do and then while. So it's gonna while, and see we have infinite printing statements on the screen. Now the next thing is we have while loop, and see do, and then there are no curly braces, they are optional, and we have an empty statement, but the condition is true, so we will be stuck as we were stuck in case of while loop. So what's going to happen is it comes to the command prompt, but when we run it, it will be stuck like this forever and ever, right? So come out of this by pressing Ctrl C. Now next thing is that we do not have the curly braces, but we have a declarative statement. So it's gonna be an error. It's gonna flag the error. Quickly save it and run it, and you will find that there are errors, right? So to remove these errors, what we have to do, we have to simply put the declaration inside curly braces, and you will see the magic that there is no error now. So this was something about the curly braces and being optional. Now next thing is we have do, and we have a while statement. Then we have a while statement over here. So how can we break or understand this program? So we have to rearrange this program. What's going to happen is do, and then this while true, it will be considered inside the do, because there are no curly braces. That's why the first statement will be considered inside the while true. This will be inside the do. Now this while true is actually a while loop, and this is true. So hello will be printed infinite times, because there is no way we can change the value of true to false. So that's why hello will be onto the screen, and we will never be able to execute this. But because these are constants, these are not related to compiler, and we will not be able to find the compile time error. It will be at runtime where hello will be printed onto the screen infinite times. So let me quickly copy and see if hello is the result on the screen until and unless return it. So first it should compile, and it's compiling, and now you see hello is onto the string. So terminate this. Now the next point is we have arranged the program in order to understand better. Do, and then while is inside do, and then we have this printing statement related to while. So this do contains while, and this while contains this one. These are only one statements without curly braces, so that's why they are considered inside that. Now while true is the syntax, and it's going to be true forever. That's why this, although this is not reachable, but this is going to be printed infinite times, right? It's not going to come out of this one. Now the next thing is we have no curly braces and we have no statements inside the do loop, but we have a true condition, and this is the indication of looping. Also we know that because this is the constants, these are the constants, that's why compiler is unable to find the error. But as soon as we run it down, we will find that this is not the correct ending or correct coding of the program. This is one. Unreachable statements. We have discussed about the reachable, unreachable statements inside the while loop. So unreachable statements inside the do while loop are, see, we have do and we have hello, right? While true. So because this is true, the loop is getting back to the hello command line, and it will print it infinite times onto the string. So this is one thing, that it's not gonna get away from this line. So the next line from this point is not reachable. So this is something about unreachable statements in do while. We have discussed that in while as well. Let me paste this code and quickly run it. So this is how we are compiling, and unreachable statement is the answer. Okay, because this is unreachable. So it's gonna flag the error sitting over, it's not reachable over here, right? One thing. Now see over here it's constant, so it should have been the responsibility of the JVM, but it's the compiler which has given us the error that it's unreachable statements, because it has checked up that this is not gonna be, this is not gonna be reached anyway. So it has flagged the error over there. So this is the second difference between while and do while, right? Now we have another program where we have do something and while false. So what will be the output over here? Is something reachable or unreachable? See, this is reachable. This is gonna be executed at least one time. This is the quality of the do while loop. So this will be executed no matter what, either true or false. But as soon as it finds that okay, the condition is false over here, it will not go back to print hello onto the string. It will come out and print hi. So the output will be hello and hi, both in separate lines. Now let me paste this program and run it, and you will find that's going to compile fine, and here we have hello and hi onto the string. The next program states that we have the variables over here, and we are comparing the variables because these are related to variables. JVM is the one which is responsible to handle the constants at runtime. So let's see, and we find that we are in indefinite printing once again. Now the next topic is, the next example states that we have two variables a and b, each having value 10 and 20. Then we have a greater than b, so it means that it's false, so it's not going to be onto the string, right? It's not going to be onto the string. Over here we had the infinite loop related to the hello as over here. Now there 10 is greater than 20 is false, so it's going to print hello, and then afterward it's going to print hi. So it will compile fine, it will run also fine. There is no problem in that code at all. Oops, what's the problem? Okay, there I haven't changed it. See, this is the problem. Over here it is greater than. See the difference, right? So save it and load it, compile it, followed by this, and run it, and you will find hello and hi on the string as discussed, right? Now the last or the second last, I hope. There we have declared the a and b as the final, so it becomes constant. As soon as it becomes constant, compiler catches the error. and it will state that okay, something is not reachable, and see what's not reachable, because this is a true statement. This one will never be reached, so that line will become unreachable, and compiler is going to flag the error, right? I is not reachable over there as discussed. So because this is true and this is going to be false, so this hello and hi will be onto the string once again. And I hope this is the last program as well. And saving the program, quickly running it, and we'll find that it compiled fine, also giving the required output. So in this way we have seen that there are certain cases related to while and do while. We have seen the basic definitions. Thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned for the for loop related to the looping concept in Java. We will be discussing the break statement, continue, keyword, all these in great details in later sessions. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.